we talked about how the standard deviation is a measure of dispersion. So the standard error is a value that measures the dispersion between the values in a sampling distribution. If we took the 6 sample means in the sampling distribution for the sample size of 2, and we calculated the standard deviation of those 6 numbers, the answer would be called the standard error, even though it really is just a standard deviation. Also, if we took the 4 sample means in the sampling distribution for the sample size of 3, and we calculated the standard deviation of those 4 numbers, the answer would be called the standard error, even though it really is just a standard deviation. And you can probably guess that the sampling distribution for the sample size of 2 had a bigger standard error, and the sampling distribution for the sample size of 3 had a smaller standard error. And you would be correct because the 6 sample means in the first sampling distribution were more spread out, and the 4 sample means in the second sampling distribution were less spread out. So the first sampling distribution would have the larger standard error. The main point that I'm trying to make is that when the sample size goes up, the standard error goes down. So when we go from the n equals 2 sampling distribution to the n equals 3 sampling distribution, the standard error goes down because the sample means move in closer together and become more accurate. So one way to think about the standard error is that if you're using a small sample size, the standard error will be larger because the possible samples are more spread out and their sample means are less accurate. The sample means tend to be further from the population mean. And if you're using a larger sample size, the standard error will be smaller because the possible samples will be more accurate. Their sample means will be closer to the population mean. So when you use a larger sample size, the standard error goes down, and that's a good thing because it means that the possible samples that you're drawing from have more accurate sample means.